This podcast is produced by Northwest Michigan Community Action Agency. The Collective Us, an NMCAA podcast, focuses on inspiring you through stories of those we've helped through our programming or by linking local resources to community members in need. Join us as we learn about the programs offered through NMCAA and how we touch people's lives every day.
Welcome back to The Collective Us. I'm Ryan Buck.
And I'm Erica Austin. Today, we wanted to dive in a little deeper to our food programs.
That's right. We've talked with previous guests about Meals on Wheels program, which is a nationally recognized program, but NMCAA has more to offer.
Exactly. So today, I'd like to first introduce our guest. Today, we have Chuck Fredell, Community Service Representative. Welcome.
Thank you.
And Mark Lux, Warehouse Specialist. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And they are both with our CSFP and TEFAP programs.
Yes, we are. And we can't get too far without explaining the acronyms. So here we go. This podcast is brought to you by CSFP, or the Commodity Supplemental Food Program, and TEFAP, or the Emergency Food Assistance Program. Let's get a rundown on the programs.
The Commodity Supplemental Food Program, or CSFP, works to improve the health of low-income persons at least 60 years of age by supplementing their diets with nutritious foods. This program is administered through the U.S. Department of Agriculture, or USDA. The program is authorized under Section 4A of the Agriculture and Consumer Protection Act of 1973. The most recent data, according to USDA.gov, in a fiscal year, on average of 676,000 people each month participated in 2018 across the nation. While CSFP is geared directly toward elder citizens, TEFAP is for anyone over 18. The Emergency Food Assistance Program, or TEFAP, is a federal program that helps supplement the diets of people with low income by providing them with emergency food assistance at no cost. Through TEFAP, the U.S. Department of Agriculture purchases a variety of nutritious, high-quality foods and makes those foods available to state distributing agencies like NMCAA.
That is a lot. And as I look across the room here, Chuck, your title is Community Service Representative. So can you tell us what that means and just what some of your daily duties include?
What it's entitled for is, so when our seniors need to get signed up for the program, they come, I go to every site we have. We have 26 sites in 10 counties. So I go to all them counties and I have applications, everything they would need to fill that out to get signed up. There is an age requirement and an income requirement for CSFP. So that's what I do every day, we do 11 days out of the month for CSFP.
So there is a lot of detail.
A lot of detail.
A lot of
paperwork.
Social interaction.
Social interaction, yes. Yeah.
So in preparing for this podcast, you mentioned to me your first position with NMCAA began in 1985 as a bus driver for Head Start. And you've been with the CSFP and TEFAP program since they began in 1991. So first of all, I have to say congratulations on being the employee who has the absolute most seniority at NMCAA. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And can you tell us how, if at all, the programs CSFP and TEFAP have changed over the years?
Well, what I've seen in the change of, let's say, CSFP is since COVID hit, a lot of our seniors, they don't come out no more. So a lot of them it's the age that they're at now. Some that were, just come to me in the early 90s when they were 60. They're in their 80s and 90s now. So they don't drive as much anymore.
Sure.
So that number has fell off a little bit just because of the travel time they'd have to do. Mm-hmm. We try to set it up so, we can go to, like each county, we can go, 3 different spots, try to get closer to them.
Yeah.
But basically it's just, when you're talking seniors, 60 and older, a lot of them drive, We have some that are in their 90s and still drive to us.
That's amazing.
Has technology come into play? I mean, you've probably seen big changes and shifts in how that helps or maybe hinders.
Yeah,
What's happening
there? The technology really hasn't really been all that great for us just yet. We've tried. We hand out a monthly newsletter to them every month, and little notes, saying this is your schedule for next month and stuff like that. We've tried robocalls, but they just don't seem to work.
Robocalls.
Yeah.
What is that?
That's where I would call them, set up robocall to call them each month and remind them that day is their food pickup day.
Right.
And a lot of our seniors, like I say, they don't recognize the number. They don't answer the phone. They just, let it go. And, some of the robocall systems we use won't do a recording to a cell phone. So it can't go to their voicemail.
So you've had this tenure and seen this evolve through time. Mm-hmm. Does that get frustrating to you that you can't find ways to improve?
Yeah,
or how do you...
a little bit, but not too much. We know there's people out there. They just, we just have to find a way to get them to come to us.
So it's by any means necessary. You're happy doing what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So before we get too much further, I want to just take a minute to recognize a few more NMCAA Milestone Career Achievement employees. We have several employees in the month of September. And so in this episode, I'll be acknowledging employees celebrating 5, 10, 15, and 20 years. Stephanie Oliver is celebrating 5 years. Christopher Daniel is celebrating 10 years. Laura Bachman is celebrating 15 years. And Carrie Norman is celebrating 20 years.
That is exceptional.
It's amazing, all these people. We continue to, acknowledge them, and the amazing longevity that these employees have at NMCAA is just incredible.
We're talking about, in each episode, there's typically a guest in a similar scenario. I think it's tremendous, and it shows that people can have a lot of trust in NMCAA and the programs because there are people who've been there since the beginning. And as you said, we'll do it no matter what it takes. And I'd want you on my corner, to be honest. But Mark, you're the warehouse specialist.
Yep.
And I assume day-to-day tasks include a lot of loading, unloading of trucks, putting away products, things like that. But what are some of the other unique things that you're responsible for?
Inventory control. We have pack crews that come in. We have 4 pack crews a month. And we have a line that we set up with all the items on them, usually around 14, 15 items. And that has to be set up, and the USDA regulates what we have to put in that box. There's 8 food categories.
And why? That's because of nutritionally?
Right. So that has to be set up in order. So then it comes down a line, and each person puts in, 2 cans of beans or 2 cans of soup or a bottle of juice or can of tuna.
And what kind of packaging are we talking about here? Can you paint this picture for a listener?
It's a cardboard box, and they're just single cans, just like you would get at the grocery store.
Right.
They put them in, and I think there's usually 23 items in the box.
Wow.
And they come down the line, and then I have to stack them up and move them out.
And so you said we have volunteers who come in to do
Yeah,
that?
these are volunteers.
Yep.
How many roughly volunteers are you getting to do these packing?
I think it's like just in a warehouse. I think it's like could be anywhere from
Counting all 4 pack crews.
Okay. So, okay.
Where can someone go to find out about being a volunteer in general?
So NMCAA.net.
And that's something that easily, and is there a number to call just in case?
There's a number on the bottom, yeah.
And so that's easily just ask. Okay. Okay. And that happens a lot. You call NMCAA, you talk to somebody, and wow, it's I just love hearing it. Thank you for saying that again. Do both of the programs service all NMCAA 10 counties?
Yes.
You said that, right? Early.
Yeah.
I'm curious about these volunteers. So they help with packing boxes. Do they assist with anything else? Is there anything else we have volunteers come in for these programs?
Yes, we do have other volunteers that actually, when we're at a food site, they come to our food sites and help. Some of them were only there an hour. We have a lot of people that come and right to the site stay there for that hour, help hand out. We have people that don't get it to even do it, but a lot of it, that people that help are our seniors that get the box. They want to give back a little bit, so they come to the sites and help out.
Okay.
We have one gentleman that works with us, and he goes to all of our TEFAP sites and CSFP sites.
Oh, wow.
He's just a volunteer. So, he lives in McBain. He drives the Cadillac every day. He goes to every site that we go to.
Why do you think that is? As you mentioned?
He's just alone. His wife died here a few years ago.
So this is something that's
just something
social connectivity. Feels
he
good.
wanted to keep doing. So
Yeah.
so
And he also benefits, you said, from he gets the distribution?
Yep, he does qualify for
So
both programs.
These food sites, when you're out, I don't know if they look different for CSFP versus TEFAP, but can you tell us what it looks like? Do you roll up in the big truck that has that NMCAA on the side
Yep,
and
we do have a truck
and
that has-
unload the box straight into somebody's vehicle? Do they have a line of cars? Tell us what it looks like.
They have to line up because we're not back inside yet. So normally on a typical day, if I was there, I would be inside. And we have everybody on our scanner system. We're talking for CSFP. So I made them little cards. I would scan that card, give them a tag. They would go out to the truck. So the boxes come off the truck on the roller system. Then the people that are working on the truck, they give them that little tag, and they know what that tag is. They give them that box of food.
Okay.
So TEFAP is done a little bit different than that. TEFAP is done by mostly all volunteers. So for TEFAP volunteers, out of the 10 counties that we do, I think we have 230 volunteers.
Oh, wow.
So those are different. Theirs is done a little bit different.
Yeah.
So
That's amazing.
You talked about the boxes of food.
Yeah.
Curious as to what types of food are in the boxes. You talked about that a little bit. Dry goods, decent shelf life. The USDA make sure that these are
all of our stuff
appropriate.
has to be, from the time we get it, a year to expiration date.
Okay.
So we have nothing that's, going to go bad within a year. We have to keep 3 months on hand at all times.
Okay. I have not, being that I'm still fairly new, I have not been in this warehouse. I would love to come back
that's
sometime
what
and see.
sounds really-
need to.
Maybe we should take a field trip, Ryan, and go
The first
Yeah.
field trip.
and go to the warehouse, and maybe we could do a little mini-sode from there.
100% on board. If you'd let us help a little bit along the way.
That would be so fun.
Well, you said, Mark, you mentioned inventory control. I'm particularly fascinated about this element because that's probably very particular. And Chuck mentioned technology, maybe not so much. How you probably have a lot of technology involved in keeping all this straight because it's regulated, or some.
Normal inventory is by the case. So we are by the unit, which is basically every can. So we need to account for every can, every bottle, every single piece instead of just, okay, you have a full case of 24. Now we have 24 units. So everything is accounted for, and Chuck and I both do inventory. At the end of the month, we have to do it once a month. And that, you send it off, that goes to
Michigan Department of Education.
Yeah.
Is that the best time of the month? You really like that time? You look forward to it?
Yeah.
I've done inventory my whole life. So it's,
See, I talked about the never-ending positivity.
right.
Try to get something
I've
there.
been around
and no.
it,
right.
for a food service company.
Yeah, you don't
for
have to,
26 years,
like-
so it's
And we're really, really, really good at it. I mean, we can be kind of looked at it a little bit yesterday, our inventory. And, we're going to be off one or two on most things. That's it.
Okay, that
Wow.
sounds like pretty
which
astounding.
could be
Yeah, that's incredible.
That sounds really good.
A volunteer putting in 3 cans of
Yeah.
beans instead of 2.
Wow.
I mean, I've
Inventory's big
done
for it.
inventory just working in retail, and
I
it's
know.
not
Yeah,
fun.
no.
So I'm like, you guys, that and only being off by 1 or 2, that's really great.
Yeah, and vaguely looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I think there's something superhuman about both of you.
So, so that inventory control that Mark does, with the pack line, so he has to know exactly what to put on the line.
But not to make light, it's very important. I
It's
mean,
very
that is,
important,
you do
yeah.
not want
Right.
20 items off on,
Right.
because that's obviously not good for various reasons. So it seems like a huge task. to have to
Well,
be
it's
done.
not only
and-
just the piece count, but like Chuck said, the food groups.
Right.
So we need like 8 cans of vegetables. So I mean, it could be 4 different kinds of vegetables, but each box has to have.
Right.
So when they look at your inventory, you not only have to hit per can, but per group. So if you didn't hand out enough, if you weren't handing out 8 cans of vegetables,
Yeah.
but you're something else, so it's going to be off. I mean, it has to hit the group plus
Yeah.
the count.
Is this, what kind of mind does it take to enjoy this? How did you come up as, what is it, architecture? Is it physics? Is it just good common sense? I don't know. How does that?
Like I said, I've done it. The only thing that changed with me was
repetition?
the food group. Right?
And then you just learned and
Just
adapted.
another layer of
Chuck-
complexity.
Chuck was very well at teaching me all that stuff. So
Well, that's what it
Interesting.
says. You stick with something and you
Right.
have some loyalty and
right.
Yeah.
you can do maybe things you thought you couldn't do.
So is the same food that goes into CSFP box the same food that goes into a TEFAP box?
It can be similar at times, but it is, I would say 50-50.
Okay.
So the same food you could get in your CSFP box, you could get that same food in your TEFAP box, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious a little bit more about the food. I know, Chuck, when you talked with me before the recording, you had mentioned that you order the food.
Right.
So the food that comes into the warehouse, you actually order it. Where do you order it from? Does it get delivered straight to the warehouse? What does that process look like for you?
Well, I only order food for CSFP. That comes directly right from the manufacturer. We have a web base that we use to order it, stuff like that. The TEFAP, we are in partners with Mid-Michigan Community Action. So they order pretty much all of our TEFAP because they're getting ours and theirs at the same time.
Okay.
So then I just go down, and then they have a new person that's just started. So I've been helping her with that process, of how much we get, how much they get, stuff like that. And then I've been down with her, helping her pick out stuff that she could order for us.
Sure.
So, and then we have to go down there and pick that up and haul that back.
Okay.
And then we have to hand that out after it comes back to our warehouse.
Okay. So where are we ordering from? Like, is it USDA food? Like, where are we?
Yeah, it's USDA food. Yeah, they have I can't remember what the name of it is. We just use the acronym WBC. So, yeah, it's a web-based chain, I think it's supply chain.
Okay.
So, and it's right through the USDA, so,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
That's big, fascinating business. Supply
Yeah.
chain management.
Yeah.
and all that.
Yeah,
Well, that's when the Panama Canal comes up and you're like,
Right.
oh, yeah, that affects us everywhere. Well, and speaking of that, it certainly sounds like a well-oiled machine in terms of knowing what needs to get done, how it needs to get done. Do you have a team of people in the warehouse? Like what kind of team, what sizes of people are we looking at?
there's 4 of us total that work there. Barrett Morris, he works there, but he's just been there just a little over a year. He's on vacation this week, so that's why he's not with us. And then Mark Hammaker.
So time off can happen as
Right,
well.
yeah,
Because it
time
feels
off.
like you don't,
Yeah.
you can't possibly.
Right, yeah, you can take time off, but it's tough. But and then Mark Hammaker, which is a program manager, and I thought he was coming today, but evidently he decided not to. So
Yeah, I think he had something else going on today. That's amazing. So just 4 people.
just 4 of us. Yep.
Handle the
so
whole.
basically, without volunteers, we'd be well overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Without volunteers. Yeah.
So if you're interested in volunteering and you're listening and you need something to do, go to NMCAA.net, look at the food programs. And
it seems like nothing is too overwhelming. You said, and what really struck me is I loved the story that when we talked about Meals on Wheels, where we had, it was a driver to guest.
yeah.
And here you have a recipient of services who's also volunteering. And so it means that most things are relatively easily done. If you can lift a box of food reasonably. So those are the kind, so if you can assuage people, it's the volunteering isn't too physically demanding as much.
No, it's not. No, we try to set it up, as easy as possible. because a lot of people do have lifting restrictions. So,
And the boxes are around 30 pounds.
Around 30 pounds,
32
so.
pounds.
And your competition is one individual who's doing it everywhere.
right.
Right. So that's the benchmark. Trying to do it in all the locations.
So you mentioned there was, I believe, 26 sites. Is that for
Yeah.
CSFP?
Yes, for CSFP,
And
we
then,
have 26.
How many sites do we have for TEFAP?
TEFAP, we have 16 different sites.
16, and that's
Yeah.
across all 10 counties.
All 10 counties of
Where
ours.
where could someone go if they're interested in finding out, like, hey, I live in Wexford County and I want to go, I think TEFAP would be beneficial for me. Could they find the schedule where?
Yeah, we have a lot of schedules out there. And like I say, we give them a little green sheet. It's a schedule that has on it for the whole year.
Okay.
So we, if we get somebody come just for TEFAP, we give them that schedule that has the whole year dates on it.
Okay.
So we just tell them, okay, so here's the pickup dates for the whole year for TEFAP. For the monthly one, it's on the other side, and that tells them every month when to come.
Okay.
So basically, back to the website again, on the, the food. Mm-hmm. And then, click on the link there. There's a link there and the phone numbers on that too.
What's really striking to me is as each of the different departments under NMCAA come in, there's different learning styles, there's different teaching styles, there's different levels of professional experience, but there's a consistent level of commitment to what they're doing. So I want to ask you, how do you create your NMCAA culture on your team? What's important to you as leaders, even if it's that 4 or with volunteers? How do you instill what you're doing into others?
I mean, you have to want to help people.
You got to want to help,
It's,
yes. And, like I say, when my daughter at 3 years old asked me to be her bus driver, how can you tell a 3-year-old no?
Wait, what?
Yeah, that's how I got started with the agency.
Your daughter asked
My
you?
3-year-old daughter, yep. She was going to Head Start.
It's a little goosebump there.
Yeah, she was going to Head Start, and she just, asked, that bus driver that was driving was leaving, and she asked me if I would drive, so I thought, well, I could do that. And that's how I got started with NMCAA.
Amazing.
I think that's probably one of the best origin stories we've heard thus far.
Yeah.
And so that is that, I mean, not to be too corny about it, but the days can probably get tough, right? So you know what you're doing. You may be looking at a assembly line of food that's not moving for a second because there may be a count off, right?
Right.
But what's the thing? I mean, you clearly, there's a route there. Is there something that keeps you motivated, that little spark?
Yeah, well, I go out with them once in a while, mostly on TEFAP for deliveries, so I see from beginning to end of it, and there's a lot of people out there that need food.
And they thank you, every time you see them.
Do you get to know some of the people that are coming through these lines?
Yeah, I through our
He knows most of them by
CSFP,
name.
Oh,
my
that's
God.
through our
amazing.
CSFP, I probably know 99%.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
Wow. Well, I mean, are you involved in any steady poker games or anything? Like, do you have to separate it a little bit, or it feels like this is the community where it's okay to make a friend out there, right?
It
And
is, yeah. I made a lot of friends with this.
Yeah.
In the food part of the program. So
Wow.
yeah.
Well, according to 2022 fiscal year data you provided, this is really staggering. So 23,070 boxes and over 1,038,150 pounds of food annually to citizens in our community just for the CSFP program.
Right. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Plus 15,935 boxes to be exact, and 153,950 pounds of food annually for the TEFAP program.
Yeah.
So these are stats. You can hold on to that. You can tell somebody who is very literal, like, oh, what do? You work for NMCAA. Oh, okay, that Meals on Wheels. That's cute, right? You can give them that. But and we talked about this a little bit, But, aside from the people and aside from, maybe that image of your daughter, what is what you try to instill in others? What is that when that volunteer comes in? What do you try to instill in them that bring that motivation to them?
It's just, they just want to do it, and so you just try to help them out as much as you can, and let them know that it's not that hard to do.
Well, the end of it, we talk about the data and we talk about the consistencies of that culture of and focus on community through NMCAA. So looking at needing volunteers, looking at, potentially, is this a program that could expand to more full-time positions? Is that something that you look at to present, or are you happy just kind of where you're at right now?
I think we're good right where we're at right now. I mean, it would take a lot of, another grant to get somebody else hired in.
And funding is something that we haven't touched on too much, but can you talk a little bit about, what the needs are and how it looks now?
As far as the funding, I don't get into that part. That's done through, our main office with Carrie and Kim.
Right.
So, I really don't know a whole lot about the funding.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
But it would, there obviously something would need to happen there for anything.
Right,
more to,
before we even think about it.
So if you're interested in, let's go with CSFP first. If you're interested in signing up for the program, where should someone go? Should they call like the main office at NMCAA, or do you have like a form they can fill out, or where would they go?
Yeah, so about 90% the people that call, like I say, we have a lot of those little green sheets out there. You've probably seen them at the offices, and on that they have the number, so they call right directly to that number. And normally they'll get Mark, and Mark will sign them up on the phone.
Okay.
Or, they can come to a distribution site, and that's on the website too. Or word of mouth even.
Can they sign up right at the distribution site?
Yep, right at the distribution, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So there's no, in terms of checking, I guess, as far as like eligibility goes, like I know CSFP you have to be 60.
Right.
So do we just have to like check their driver's license or something?
Well,
and
I
make
do
sure
have
that
to look at
they're...
their, that's the only thing I have to look at is their driver's
Okay.
license, because Michigan Department of Education requires them to show ID when they pick up their food.
Okay.
So they have to show me their license.
Okay.
So, and then the other is they went to a self-declare on the income. So
This is for TEFAP.
this is not for CSFP.
Oh, for CS. Okay.
CSFP went to a self-declare. So on the back of the application, there is the income guidelines. So I would just tell them to look at the guidelines. You decide if you're under them.
Okay.
If you are, then you can fill out the front, and then you can get food that day.
Okay. Wow.
Do you find that as you get, and Mark, as you've been in the field, Chuck, you know a lot of these people by name, is it similar to Meals on Wheels in that if you see any challenges maybe in the home that you can help with things like that?
Yeah, see, we don't go directly to their homes.
Right.
So, a lot of us will have to drive to us, and some will ask us, about Meals on Wheels, and we just direct them to the right place.
Oh, so that's that kind of direct next phase to helping.
So, with all of our programs, with the agency, we all direct, when we hear something.
Yeah.
Somebody want,
so if you get close to somebody and
right,
you can say...
You can say, call this number here, call this number.
You're a good person to know.
Yeah.
I think. To be honest. Well, I guess anybody at NMCAA is a really good person to know because you feel like you can handle pretty much anything anybody needs help with in a very real way.
Right. And we'll get calls for, is this Meals on Wheels? It's like, no, hold on.
No,
let
but
me
we
get
get
you
the
the
numbers.
Let me get you the number for
Okay.
it. And I think they probably get calls also.
Oh, sure. Yeah. We've talked with other programs who are internally referring
We
each
get
other.
it. That's the high end. That's the recognizable one. That's that recognition. But it's good that we're sharing this information. And I'm sure if somebody gets to you for Meals on Wheels and vice versa, it's a nice conversation.
Right. Yeah.
You go away again feeling like, oh, this is great. That was a real human who sent me to another person. So who cares? We're all good.
Yeah.
So I brought up the website because I wanted to see what it was you were looking at. So distribution for TEFAP are only 4 months out of the year?
Yep. So they start in November, March, June, and September.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's over the, was it 16 sites you said?
Yeah, 16 of those sites. Yep.
Okay.
I think there's 16 or 7, could be 17. I lost track.
Okay.
Of them. Yeah.
So, okay.
yeah.
And those, again, and both of these programs, again, are in all 10 of our service counties. So
Yeah.
if you need to.
And
look
is there a
those up.
Facebook page yet? Are they talking about Facebook and things like that?
So TEFAP and CSFP do not have their own Facebook pages, but we will be doing some more posting on the programs on our NMCAA page.
Oh, awesome. So you can go to the NMCAA Facebook page.
Yep. Yeah.
I've got the hard-hitting question we could do right now if you're interested.
Sure. Yeah. Let's do that.
Because I think this will be an interesting answer. Now, we said there are no hard-hitting questions. Maybe there's just one, but you're very passionate. You're both very pragmatic, and I see. So I'm kind of fascinated by this. Yeah. But if you, and I think an answer from both is required. But if you could have one wish for the CSFP TEFAP program, what would it be and why? Unlimited. You can have fun here. It can be practical too.
Oh, one wish that, the biggest wish was is nobody was out there needing food. If we could just get everybody, that doesn't need food anymore, that's probably the biggest thing right there. Put me out of a job, but
I was just going to say.
I would be okay with that.
If everybody was fed, you'd be okay with just.
I'd be okay with that. Yes.
But in the meantime, doing the feeding is good work.
It's good work. Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it wouldn't change anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mark.
I mean, for the program would be to get the word out to everybody.
Okay.
I mean, we haven't figured a way to get it, because I know Chuck has told me the numbers were way higher than when I started.
And do you benchmark? Do you have goals that you look at, or do you have?
Well, we have
regard?
caseloads that we
Right.
have to. We try to meet our caseload every month, and that's our struggle. Is we're not getting to that caseload.
Right.
So actually, we're gonna, if we we have till September to get to our at least 83%, or we take a chance on losing some slots.
Yeah.
Which
So
we don't
awareness,
want.
more people would be aware.
It's hard to target. We had talked about it before with seniors. How do you target getting the word to seniors? A lot of them aren't on the internet.
Yeah.
I mean, could it be like a door-to-door situation that could be, or mail, just mail, old school? Yeah, true.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part, because if you're handing out, and it's food and you have people show up, well, you're not 60. It's kind of,
Right. Yeah.
it's a tough, and hopefully Erica could
Yeah.
solve some of that, the marketing part of it.
Yeah. And a podcast sure helps. I think to get the
we
word.
need to get numbers up.
And are there folks out there, do you think, maybe that just have a challenge making that first step for any particular reason, just not wanting to admit they
Right, yeah,
need
there's
help
a lot
there?
of people out there that I hear is like, well, I don't want it no more, let somebody else have it. I really don't need it anymore, somebody else can get it, And they don't understand that just not for anybody, the CSFP, you have to meet these requirements, so
Right.
that's the tough one there.
I feel like Lisa with Meals on Wheels has also mentioned, like, I don't want to take the food, give it to somebody else who needs it, but she wants to give it to everybody.
Yeah,
So
it's an interesting
similar.
challenge.
It is, yeah.
In some cases on some past shows, there's been challenges with a guest admitting that they need that help or getting over that initial hurdle. But every single time they do it, there's happiness, there's some joy. I'm sure it's not perfect along the way for them, but there's a successful resolve. So I feel that. I feel exactly what you're saying, thinking about the people who aren't calling. Right. So hopefully maybe they hear this. And I'm telling you, you need to meet these two gentlemen here doing this stuff. I'm in here in the studio, and I think it's going to be lovely for you. So if there's anybody concerned, please don't be.
Do we have people who, maybe more likely for CSFP, who sign up their parents or
not too many.
Or call to inquire maybe about
they might
for their parents?
Call and
I've had a few calls
and say
in the office hey, how do I get my mother signed up for? Is she eligible?
Okay.
And I've had that before.
Okay. So my marketing brain is turning on. So
Right,
I'm just
yeah.
Wow,
There you
that's
go.
cool.
trying to
Yeah.
see who do we need to reach for, to get more people to
Right,
know
that-
about the program.
that-
It's
sense.
fascinating, as you said, because there's so many different ways people are getting information and learning. And like you said, snail mail still is for some, and
Yep.
whatever it takes to get that information out there. But I hear what you're saying about that, and I feel the passion to get the word out. So
Yeah. And if someone were interested in, we talked a lot about volunteers, so we know where to go to volunteer. If someone were interested in donating to the program, I'm assuming your program also takes donations?
Well, they can't donate, like come to me and say, I want to give you money for doing this. We
Okay.
can't take that. But I think if they were really interested in donated, I could direct them to Carrie or to Kim,
Okay.
because, I have their numbers. I would,
Yeah.
pass that information on to get them to and they could, take that further.
Okay. So if somebody was interested, either, reach out directly to the warehouse.
Right.
Or they can call probably the main line at NMCAA, which I believe is, I've got it right here, 231-947-3780. So,
I think that's a similar concept in that if you want to give to a program, there will be a reasonable way to help support that program. So if
Absolutely,
you do want to support these programs, reach out and somebody will help you do
Somebody,
that
yeah.
in some way.
Some way, yeah. Yeah.
and at least talk you through, what's the best thing. So
Right.
please don't hesitate to reach out for that.
So I just want to do a quick recap before we close up today. So CSFP is the Commodity Supplemental Food Program.
Yeah.
You have to be 60 or older.
Yep.
There's 26 distribution sites across 10 counties, and you can find all the information for that online. And then there's TEFAP. You have to be 18 or older.
Right.
Are both of them income self-declared?
They're both self-declared income, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the TEFAP also has 16 or 17-ish sites. We're not sure.
Yeah,
We lost
16 or
count.
17, yeah, somewhere around there. Yeah. I could get to all of them, but
And that is also,
Oh my gosh.
he could drive there.
yeah.
And they're also across all 10 counties. So just wanted to give a quick recap because we've
I
been
am
kind of intermixing
so
them.
impressed by you.
Oh,
That was
stop.
awesome. That was awesome. See, we do learn just as much.
Yeah, it's a
We
great
try to
learn.
be super prepared, and we still learn. Chuck and Mark, thank you again for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking the time to be here. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please hit the like, follow, share button. It truly helps us continue to get the word out on all the good NMCAA does in the community.
Don't forget, we'd like to share your community stories regarding NMCAA. If you have a story you'd like to share about how NMCAA has impacted your life, send us an email at collectiveuspodcast@nmcaa.net. If you'd like to learn more about Northwest Michigan Community Action Agency or the programs we offer, or would like to make a donation, we encourage you to reach out at 231-947-3780 or visit our website, nmcaa.net. And to our listeners today, we encourage you to continue to strive each day to do something to help yourself or your neighbors.